it's Doris with All the Books, and Shawn and I are here for our next installment of the Faber Stories, mini stories. This one is Robert Aickman's The Inner Room. So I was pretty excited to get started on this one because when I went to read about Robert Aickman, I'd never heard of him before either. He was billed as a conservationist. He was the founder of the Inland Waterways Association, which was put in place to help preserve the inland canal system in England. So yeah, I thought, oh, he's going to be a nature writer, and you know I love those, but no. no. He apparently had another interest in psychology and the occult, and that is what played out in his short stories. So he's more of a supernatural writer, and he billed his short stories as strange stories. So I'm wondering how dear Shawn is going to fare with this one, because that's not always his cup of tea. So yes, I have read the first 16 pages of this. It's a 66-page little short story. So I read the first 16 pages and ended at a nice page break and thought I would just check in here. I read the first paragraph twice and just was not sure at all what was going on, so I just moved on with my life. Turns out it's a family on a little road trip. Not a road trip, a drive. My parents used to love to take drives back in the day. I don't think that's as much of a recreational activity anymore, but yeah, when I was a kid, my parents loved to take drives. So this is a mom and dad and their two kids off on, you know, let's say a Sunday drive. Actually, they're taking a little drive to the coast for the little girl's birthday. Yeah, and the car breaks down. So that is, I guess, what was happening in the opening paragraph. The car breaks down, they're hauled to a repair shop, and they can't find the repairman, so they end up wandering into town and perusing the shops and find a toy store. So that is where we're left, is in this toy store. The little brother finds a telegraph line that is actually just a window dressing and not for sale. He's disturbed by this. And the girl, who is not really into dolls, I can relate, but she finds a dollhouse in the back room and is instantly mesmerized by it, and turns out that it is for sale. Like, not even for sale. The guy just wants to get rid of it for, I think they said, £1. I'm assuming that's not much for this really large dollhouse, fully furnished, and you know. So yeah, I'm not loving it. So that's a bit of a letdown after the success with the first couple that I read of this collection. I don't feel connected to the characters. The author is billed as hating children. In his, you know, biography, someone mentioned that he hated children and did not have a good childhood himself. His mother apparently left him. So yeah, I reading these first 16 pages, I didn't know much about the kids, and they were actually kind of written as little adults, and the little girl is telling the story, and her inner monologue is very little adultish. Yeah, and then with the parents, with the little girl telling the story, the mother was described kind of in the way that someone who was attracted to her would describe her, not the way a child would describe her mother. So that was a little weird. Okay, but with the house, with the dollhouse, Robert Aikman was an architect, so that was kind of a neat description there. And I get the feeling that this is going to go with a little bit of a gothic spin in the rest of the story. Unfortunately, I don't get that from the introduction. I get it from what I researched myself online and knowing what type of a writer Robert Aikman was. So as introductions go, I don't think this was a very strong one. Now, I did also read that Robert Aikman wrote for self-expression rather than popularity, and that his writing was kind of like a fine wine. You had to develop a taste for it. I don't know. What do you think, Shawn?
Hey, Doris. Well, this is going to be a quickie, and I'm going to be a little bit of a party pooper here because I hate ghost stories passionately. They're the stupidest things in literature. So I don't think I'm going to like it. But and I almost bailed after the first paragraph. So let's just look at the first paragraph together, shall we? I'll put it on the screen. I'm not going to pause the video for too long. So if you want to look at it longer, pause the video. The comma diarrhea. Who edited this book? The New Yorker? I love the New Yorker magazine. It's the best magazine in the world, but their comma policy is pretentious and ridiculous. And this paragraph just about made me want to throw up with all those commas. Sure, when I look at each individual choice of a comma, I can kind of support the choices that were made, but no, it's horrible. Recast the sentences so you don't need all those pretentious commas, but enough about commas. I don't like ghost stories, but I must say that once I got past my comma tantrum, I actually enjoyed the first 14 pages after that. The story kind of sucked me in, but I don't think I'm going to end up liking the story. But the family visits this old rundown toy store, and it totally reminded me because the day before I read these opening pages, I had been to a candy store in Tokyo, and it was old, rundown, off the beaten track, and my husband Kenji just became a little kid with dancing eyes when he entered the shop with me because all the candy of his childhood, which is now widely unavailable, almost completely unavailable, was available for sale at this store, and he just became a cute little boy. And so that reminded me of this. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to be a story for me because ghosts, no. But it did hold my interest up to page 14, so more later. Ghosts disappear. I wish a whole bunch of those commas would disappear. Over to you, Doris.
Oh no, call the comma cops. You're so funny, Shawn. Anyway, I think we need to call like the FBI failed book investigators because this was terrible and I want to know what they were thinking when they published it. It was just especially disappointing because the first two that we read were so good. And this was a dud. This was such a dud for me. Strange stories. If you want to read a really good strange story, two that I would recommend from high school Basil readers here in the United States are The Monkey's Paw and The Fall of the House of Usher. I'm sure those are probably on PDF somewhere, so I'll link them below if you're interested. This one was just a mess. It was like little vignettes of things that he was fascinated by and thinking about, and he mashed them all together, and it was just disjointed and didn't communicate any real emotions or interesting information or a story even. It was just a hodgepodge of what? Obviously, if this is the fine wine, I don't have a taste for it. Anyway, yeah, Shawn, tell us more. Did you see any merit in it?
Hey, Doris. Well, thanks for the tips. I have read The Fall of the House of Usher a few times. It's a great, scary, creepy story, and I hadn't heard of The Monkey's Paw, so I've Googled that. I'll check it. But yes, we agree completely. It was shit. So I don't know who he is. apparently, according to his Wikipedia page, he was an architect, and he was this, and he was that, and he was an environmentalist. So the moral of the story is, don't write fiction unless you're going to devote your life to it. That's the moral I'm taking from this, because it just... The Fall of the House of Usher is a good comparison. It had such a creepy sense of foreboding. The atmosphere was just... I can still remember it, not having looked at it in probably 40 years. This had no creepy atmosphere, no sense of foreboding. It was just bland words and too many commas on the page. Better luck next time, Doris. I hope so.